Good evening, everyone. This is the Library Advisory Commission LAC meeting for May 16th, 2022. This meeting is being recorded and streamed live to YouTube. And Chair Lindsay Bass will now call this meeting to order, transitioning to gallery view. Please stand by.
Thank you, Moderator Jones. We will call our May 16th meeting of the Library Advisory Commission to order. Clerk Simona Vargas, will you please call the roll?
Jennifer Mount.
Here.
Mary Ripma.
Here.
Mike Termini.
Here.
Pamela Woll.
Here.
Tricia Wynne.
Here.
Vice Chair Rena Dubin.
Here.
And Chair Lindsay Bass.
Here. All commissioners are present. That'll move us on to item 2 on our agenda tonight, which is the adoption. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Termini and a second by Commissioner Wynne. Clerk Simona Vargas, will you please do a roll call vote?
Jennifer Mount.
Aye.
Mary Ripma.
Aye.
Mike Termini.
Aye.
Pamela Woll.
Aye.
Tricia Wynne.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rena Dubin.
Aye.
And Chair Lindsay Bass.
Aye. The agenda is adopted. So we'll move on to our oral communications for tonight. Before I read the instructions for oral communications, I just want to check with Moderator Jones to see if we have any members of the public that would like to speak tonight.
Chair Bass, there are no public comments.
Okay, that will move us along to item 4 on our agenda tonight, which is the report by the library director. The report was submitted in writing in our packet. So I would invite Director Wilburn to just share any comments she might have. If none, then we can take any questions that commissioners might have on that report.
Certainly. Thank you, Chair Bass. I'm happy to share just a couple of items from the report. One, we are beginning, if you noticed in our chart of all of our vacant positions, we have begun interviewing, we've posted positions, so we are working with Human Resources to try and fill a lot of those vacancies that we've had. Interviews are in progress for most of these recruitments. With our branches opening up, we are seeing some of our staff shifting from one location to another and then creating vacancies in other spots. So even though these are listed here, there are additional ones that will be coming open that will go back to our recruitment list to fill. We want to welcome Abraham Escalante as well as Carlos Silva, our new library IT manager. Carlos has really done a fantastic job of hitting the ground running, really trying to sum up what's been going on in the numerous building projects that we have to make sure that we stay on track with our openings. With our facilities, our Garfield Park Library is saved the date for June 11th. That is coming up soon. And so we're really excited about that and hope that you're all able to attend. The festivities will take place from 12 to 4. And then if you were not able to attend, we had a really lovely opening for the Boulder Creek Library on Saturday, May 7th. It was really wonderful. Lots of families came out with their children. If you have not had a chance to see that space, I highly recommend that you go. The children's room is just magical to me. It's like being in a tree house with little fairies around you. So it's really a wonderful space. And I encourage you to go if you have not already attended. And then just a final note, we are preparing our staff, our youth services librarians are preparing for our summer reading program. We're really excited about starting that. And, festivities will be taking place all across the county in different locations. So even though our branches are closed in some places, we will still continue to offer programming for our patrons, even though the branches are closed. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Yolanda, I noticed that you had APTOS opening in May. That's May 2023, correct?
Correct.
Well, okay, thanks, Mike, for bringing that up. So as the Aptos person, it says that it's going to start mid-May, and the hour of mid-May having arrived. I'm
So
wondering if
actually, for what I'm referring to there is for mid-May, Scotts Valley is targeting the Aptos demolition is slated for mid-May. So
right.
it's really the demolition that I'm talking about. But we do know it's going to take a year to build it. So we anticipate it's probably going to be mid-May 2023 before we open that location as well.
Right. So I was really wondering if we have a date specific yet on the demolition.
We do not. So
Okay.
they just recently, there are some requirements, permitting requirements that they have to go out and check for nesting birds. So my understanding is they have done that process. There were no birds nesting in the area. They are beginning with the interior demolition of the library. And then once that's complete, they anticipate going on to the full external demolition. But I do not have a solid date as yet.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Director Wilburn?
Well, this isn't a question, but I really wanted to compliment you on doing, on pursuing a grant with the state library and going to sites where they're doing food distributions and bringing a bookmobile and summer reading program. I'm really thrilled about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we have our youth services team are just phenomenal. And this really was, I can take no credit. It was our youth services team that decided they really wanted to do it. And they went out for the grant and wrote it. And I supported it wholeheartedly.
Great. Thank you.
Great. Okay, well, thank you for those questions and comments, commissioners, and for the report, Director Wilburn. Are there any public comments on item number 4 on the agenda?
Chair Bass, there are no public comments.
Okay. As we have no action on this item, we'll move on to item 5. And this is the report by the Friends of the Santa Cruz Public Libraries. And we did receive a note from Executive Director Cotter before the meeting that he will be unable to attend. So we will have no report out tonight on item 5, but he did indicate that he will be back for the July meeting. So we'll look forward to a robust update from our Friends group at that time. That will move us along to item 6, which are our member reports. So I will open the floor up to commissioners for their reports. I see Vice Chair Dubin. Go right ahead. Kick us off.
Okay, I just wanted to let everyone know some of it is in the packet that was sent, but the City Council has, I don't know if any of you were at the meetings, but the City Council has received the downtown library, the new design from the architects, and it's so incredible and fabulous. I hope all of you take a look at it and just see what is being planned for our new downtown library. It's pretty amazing.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dubin. Any other member reports? Seeing none, I'm just going to piggyback on Rena's statement to mention to the community that I did participate in the April 21st session for the public, where the architects did walk everyone through all of the drawings and provide kind of a bird's eye view of all of the incredible assets and amenities that would be coming with the new site. They also did a great job of polling the folks that were a part of that session throughout the course of the meeting, as well as getting kind of final feedback and comments from everyone that attended at the close. So I just really continue to be very impressed with the level of public outreach and engagement in the project. would encourage members of the public, as those opportunities arise, to stay in touch with the library website, the city website, if there are additional opportunities to learn more about that project. So just really, really good information. And with that, if there are no other comments or reports, we'll move on. So that brings us to item 7 on our agenda tonight, which is our consent calendar. So these will be enacted in one motion unless any commissioners have questions or would like to pull an item for questions. So included in our consent calendar tonight are the minutes of April 18th, the media report, the resolution to authorize the Library Advisory Commission to utilize remote teleconference meetings to continue that practice, and then to accept communications to the commission. Are there any questions or desires to pull items from the consent calendar?
I'll move consent.
A second.
We have a motion to move from Commissioner Termini and a second by Vice Chair Dubin. Clerk Simona Vargas, would you please do a roll call vote?
Sorry about that. I lost the window for a second. Jennifer Mount.
Aye.
Mary Ripma.
Aye.
Mike Termini.
Aye.
Pamela Woll.
Aye.
Tricia Wynne.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rena Dubin.
Aye.
And Chair Lindsay Bass.
Aye. The consent calendar is approved unanimously. Thank you, everyone. This will bring us to item 8 on our calendar, or our agenda tonight, which is a presentation by Jessie Silva on the Scpl programs and services inside Santa Cruz County Correction Facilities. I will turn the floor over to Director Wilburn and Jessie Silva. Thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Chair Bass. I'm very pleased to introduce Librarian Jessie Silva. Jessie does a phenomenal job of working with juvenile hall and our jails. I have to say, many of the staff are passionate at Santa Cruz Public Library about what they do, and Jessie is definitely one of those people who is extremely passionate about what she does. She means what she says, and she is committed to public service. So with that, I welcome Jessie Silva to present to you.
Thank you, Yolande. So I think Sarah will be sharing my slides momentarily. As Yolande mentioned, my name is Jessie Silva, and I'm here to share a little bit about Santa Cruz Public Library's County Corrections Facilities, also known as CCF. I've been on the CCF team since its inception in 2016, and the lead on the team since 2018. Today, I'll cover where and who we serve, how we build equity into this work, a little bit about the CCF team, our services and programs and collection, and I'll end with plans for the future and why it is we do this work. As the child of a previously incarcerated parent, providing library services is especially significant to me. I do this service not only to bring meaning to my work as a librarian and public servant, but also to bring compassion, dignity, empathy, and access to information to all, regardless of their involvement with the justice system. I believe it is the public library's duty to support those who have little or no support, to provide access to information to those who may not otherwise have it, and to create positive social change in the communities they serve. The CCF mission supports this intention, stating, Santa Cruz Public Libraries, in partnership with the Sheriff's Department, are committed to delivering programs and services for educational and personal development, to promote reentry success as well as ease stress caused by incarceration, leading to an enriched and safer environment for people who are incarcerated, jail staff, and all Santa Cruz County residents. CCF currently serves 4 facilities: the main jail in Santa Cruz, the Roundtree Medium Facility in Watsonville. Also in Watsonville and right next to Roundtree, we serve the Rehabilitation and Reentry Facility and the Juvenile Hall Detention Center in Felton. Blaine Street's women's facility is temporarily closed, but we do serve that facility when it's operational. The demographics listed here were pulled from the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's monthly statistics report from February 2022, and the CCF service numbers are a combination of average monthly book deliveries and program attendance. The people we serve inside these facilities are disproportionately poor, experiencing mental health issues, experiencing homelessness, have substance abuse disorders. They are disproportionately people of color. As you can see in the data shown here, there is a large disparity between the demographics of incarcerated population and the general Santa Cruz County population, especially for Latino youth detained in juvenile hall, where 66.6% of that population is Latino, compared to the general Santa Cruz County population, which is 34%. Library services to people who are incarcerated encourages a lifelong relationship with the library, so that individuals and their families may benefit from library services and programs throughout their lives after incarceration. These services promote reentry access, reentry success. They ease the stress of incarceration, create a positive relationship with the community, and provide library services to those who may not otherwise have access. It's important to note that library services in general are made better for the entire community when they are relevant to those most in need. What lifts up one of us lifts us all. An example of this is when CCF began to build a collection of books based on reading interests of people inside the jails. We discovered that many non-CCF patrons on the outside wanted to read the very same books, prompting book selectors to order those books for the general collection as well. The reading interests of those inside informed the outside collection, creating a more well-rounded, meaningful, and relevant collection for all. The Santa Cruz Public Library Jail Services would not exist in its current form without a chance meeting in 2015 between then Director Janice O'Driscoll and Santa Cruz County Sheriff Jim Hart. Together, they decided to bring a more robust library service to the jails and created what is today called CCF. Our current team is managed by Jessica Goodman and led by myself. Librarian Susan Nelson oversees our People and Stories program, the CCF collection of books, and supports all CCF services. And in our CCF office, Davis Banta provides aid support, and Rachel McKay, who started with CCF as a volunteer, provides on-call LA2 support. We currently have one very dedicated volunteer who facilitates a People and Stories class at the Rehabilitation Reentry Facility. She's been volunteering with CCF since 2018. And we are extremely grateful to have such a valuable partnership with the Sheriff's Office and their incredible programming team. Working with them over the years, we have built up levels of trust that make it possible for us to do this job safely and effectively. The CCF services and programs include book deliveries that take place every other week at each facility. Currently, we provide in-person services at Juvenile Hall and the Rehabilitation and Reentry Facility, with plans to add in-person services at Roundtree in June. Main jail patrons have their books dropped off bi-monthly, but do not currently have in-person service due to COVID. In addition to bringing in books, we provide each person with a Santa Cruz Public Library account and encourage all to come to an open branch when they are released to take advantage of all the public library has to offer them as they re-enter the community. And we have the literacy program, People and Stories, a short story workshop that brings relevant stories to marginalized populations, igniting discussion and self-discovery through the lens of the narrative. Starting with the grant in 2016, Santa Cruz Public Libraries has offered People and Stories in the local jails. This nationally recognized program is designed to bring a love of reading and discussing literature to those who might not otherwise have access. CCF patrons can earn milestone completion credits for participation in People and Stories. Milestone credits are awarded for successful completion of approved rehabilitative and educational programs designed to better prepare them to find employment upon release and thereby reduce recidivism. Milestone certificates are presented to judges at times of sentencing who may reward recipients with an earlier release. Beginning in March of 2020, at the start of the pandemic and up until last month, People and Stories was offered via teleclass at the Rehabilitation and Reentry Facility and via distance learning to Maine and Roundtree. After more than 2 years of distance learning, we are excited to announce People and Stories has returned to in-person classes at the Rehabilitation and Reentry Facility with plans to begin in-person classes at Roundtree in June. CCF has a collection of books purchased specially for our patrons. This was initially funded through a Santa Cruz Public Libraries Innovation Grant in 2018 and in 2019. And in 2020, it became a local collection and is now a part of the library's CMS budget. This collection augments the library's general collection with emphasis placed on purchasing titles not found in the general collection and relevant to people who are incarcerated. The CCF collection would not exist if not for the dedication and support of CMS manager Sarah Harbison and the CMS team for all their help purchasing, cataloging, and tracking the collection. And just this year, the Sheriff's Office has agreed to provide $3,000 in funding for this collection. This generous contribution is a recognition of the positive impact library services have inside county jails. Officers have repeatedly told us that the days when the library comes in are their favorite days of the week. They report the entire facility is more peaceful after we leave and everyone is immersed in their new library book. These books support rehabilitation and develop a love of reading. A love of reading that is carried with them to their families, children, professions, neighborhoods, and community. Pictured here, you see Susan Nilsson, who's been responsible for developing the CCF collection over the last 2 years. Her focus has been to build up our collection of juvenile hall titles and Spanish language titles. So even though we are a small team, we have big plans for the future. Much of the planning for the programs listed here have been stalled due to COVID and staffing shortages. But as we move back towards working with CCF patrons in person, we are hopeful we'll be able to add in additional programs and services, such as People and Stories for youth at Juvenile Hall and early literacy classes for parents or caregivers who are incarcerated. We are currently working on creating a bookmark listing all the programs and services available at the branches that may be useful for people recently released, hoping to bridge the gap between incarceration and community support. These bookmarks will be made available to people who are inside the jails, as well as at branches and via community partners. And we'd like to offer mail-in reference for Santa Cruz County Jails, which is currently handled by the San Francisco Public Library's Jail and Reentry Services team, who are 2 to 3 months behind on this service, even with their interns assisting. There is clearly a huge demand for this service in Santa Cruz County, and we'd like to be able to provide that. We always like to do more, but we work pretty well with the resources we have. When people ask why public libraries serve people who are incarcerated, I usually remind them that we are meant to serve all the public, regardless of their involvement with the justice system. The CCF statement of purpose expands upon this, stating, as a public library, it is our responsibility to provide library services to all. By actively engaging with and equitably serving people impacted by incarceration, library programs and services benefit not only those in the jails, it also serves the community as a whole. The CCF team provides access to information, education, and relevant resources through library programs and services to youth and adults incarcerated in Santa Cruz County and the cities within the county. We provide library account registration, library book lending, and People and Stories, the short story discussion group that brings relevant literature to those who may not otherwise have access. Finally, I have a few recommendations if you want to read more. All of these titles here were written by librarians that work inside jails or prisons, and they all take a trauma-informed, equitable, and dignity-based approach to services. I'd like to add here that Jeannie Austin, the author of Library Services and Incarceration and San Francisco Public Librarian, recently won a $2 million grant from the American Library Association to expand SFPL's jail and reentry services. In recognition of this incredible reward and support of the library services in San Francisco Sheriff Paul Miyamoto said, "For those who are incarcerated, access to literature can be the difference between rehabilitation or rearrest. The Sheriff's Office welcomes all programs that encourage education and support for opportunities upon release. We strive to use any time of incarceration as an opportunity for growth and improvement." And Tracy D. Hall, the Executive Director of the American Library Association, adds, "Low literacy and limited access to information-rich networks continue to be chief contributors to the prison pipeline. Research shows that increasing the literacy rates and strengthening the library and information access opportunities for detained and formerly detained individuals often correlates to successful rehabilitation and reentry." And that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time and your attention. And I'm available if anyone has any questions or comments.
I have one, just that you're doing great and important work. Well done. Thank you.
Yeah, I just would add the same. Great job. It's really a great program. I'm really happy to hear that we're doing it. Thanks for your work on it, Jessie.
Thank you.
Any other
Yes,
comments?
agreed. Thank you.
Great. That was wonderful, Jessie. Thank you so much for sharing more information about the program. I think I speak for the commissioners, and they've voiced some of those comments tonight that, you know, it's really amazing the reach that you all have through the branches, but then through these really, really amazing, innovative ways that you're providing more equitable service and access to those services and the profound impact that that has in our community. So just really, really appreciate that work, and would invite you to come back and share with us, especially if there are ways that the community can engage and support the work as you guys think about the future, as you aim to reach and grow. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
And I just want to add my thanks to all of our commissioners, Jessie, for the fantastic work that you do every day. I know it's not easy, but I will just share a couple of little stories around some of the work. You know, Jessie does this every day, and yeah, I love that she talked a little bit about how the jails change after people have had the opportunity to get their materials. I do know that there are some instances where there may have been some issues with someone who's incarcerated, and they may lose their privileges, and they get very upset about not getting their library books. So that's how important this is. And I say that, you know, laughing, but it is very serious. When you're incarcerated and you have nothing to do with your time. So the books and what you can learn and how you can progress on a different level, on a personal level, and educate yourself, I think are really important. So again, thank you, Jessie, for all of the great work that you're doing on the program.
Thank you, Yolande, and thank you, you know, for your support, because we can't do this stuff without you and the senior management team supporting us. So I appreciate it.
Vice Chair Dubin, do you have a comment, question?
I just wanted to say that I love that we have been hearing all these about all these amazing programs of what the library is doing. I know I've been telling people about it, and you know, it's really incredible. It makes me just so proud of our library system and the values that we have, and you know, it's really great. I hope we can keep on hearing more about all these programs and getting updates. Thank you.
Yes, hear, hear. Every time we have a presentation, I'm just like, wow, like that was amazing. Like how are we going to top that next meeting? And you guys just keep bringing back these amazing, awesome programs for us, meeting after meeting. So yeah, it's a testament to all the great work that you and the staff are doing. Thank you again, Jessie, for being with us tonight. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Before we move on, I'll just pause to see if there's any public comment on the presentation.
Chair Bass, we do have one hand up. Call-in listener ending in 347. Go ahead. Call-in listener ending in phone number 347. Go ahead. If you are talking,
I don't know if that's
we
me.
can't.
My phone ends in 8977.
Well, I hear you talking, and your hand is the one
Yes.
up, so go ahead.
You know, I got the other one. Yes, it's Cynthia Matthews. That was a wonderful presentation. And it occurs to me when I'm out in the community advocating for libraries, people, as you well know, sometimes say, well, what's the use of libraries these days? And this is a really powerful presentation. So I would urge, Jessie, that you take the substance of your talk tonight and put that into an opinion piece and share it with the public. It was really wonderful. And some of the quotes that Yolande mentioned, it's a presentation that deserves to be heard. Just wanted to say that. And I will also just mention, since I'm on air, the Friends of the Library are being honored tomorrow by the Volunteer Center receiving a Be the Difference Award. So my only two comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Cynthia, for that comment and great suggestion. Great idea.
And Chair Bass, that ends the public comments.
Very good. All right. Well, Jessie, we'll let you get on with the rest of your evening, but thank you so much for all the work that you're doing, and again, for being with us tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
With that, we will move to item 9 on our agenda, which is our general business items. So we have 2 items on or under general business tonight. The first is around the commemorative flag policy. So I will turn the floor over to Director Wilburn to introduce that item and kick us off.
Thank you, Chair Bass. So this item is requesting that the Library Advisory Commission approve a policy regarding the display of commemorative flags. We have attached 2 versions of the policy for your review. If you recall, at the May 5th meeting of the Library Joint Powers Authority Board, we had the commemorative flag policy on their agenda, which we had, taken to them after sending it to you all. And they asked us to send it back to rethink it with a couple of different options. So in the attachments today, item 109A is the commemorative flag policy, which would place the approval of commemorative flags in the hands of the Library Advisory Commission. It really is meant to, the flagpoles are not meant as a forum for free expression, but that this gives the library the opportunity to maybe express some official sentiments that may be consistent with our mission and our strategic plan. The Library Advisory Commission, if someone made a request to fly a flag, like currently we have the progressive pride flag flying at all of our branches. So if someone made a request or the library was putting forth a request to fly that flag, we would bring that to the Library Advisory Commission and ask for approval to fly it. The flag could fly no longer than a 31-day period. Item number or attachment number 109B is the alternate policy, and this was recommended by one of our Library Advisory Commission board members, whereby the Library Joint Powers Authority Board would continue to hold the decision-making, but it would be placed in the hands of the jurisdiction in which the library was located. So with this particular policy, we may end up with different rules depending upon the library jurisdiction that you're in, but it would then follow the sort of guidelines of that city or that county entity. Currently, Capitola Library is the only, the city of Capitola, pardon me, the city of Capitola is the only city that does have a commemorative flag policy. And they do allow the progressive pride flag to be flown. That is the only one that is within their policy. The county, the city of Santa Cruz and the city of Scotts Valley do not have policies. So in essence, the branches located in those jurisdictions, as an example, would not fly the progressive flag, pride flag in the month during the month of June, during Pride Month. Whereas the Capitola Library, because they do have a policy, would be able to fly that. And that would not be any additional items that would need to go to the board. It would just simply follow whatever the policies are of that jurisdiction. So if you would like to have some discussion amongst yourselves on which policy you would like to have us take forward to the Library Joint Powers Authority Board for approval, we would certainly appreciate that.
So let's start with questions from commissioners, and then once we do a round of just clarifying questions, if we can check in with the pub just to see if there's any public comments on this item, and then if we can come back and do some deliberation, then if that is a reasonable approach to everyone, we'll go ahead and start with any questions. Thank you, Yolande, for that overview. That was very helpful. providing a little bit of history and background to how this is back on our agenda and some of the circumstances around each of the different options. So I'll open it up to questions from commissioners now. Commissioner Ripma.
So I just want to clarify if I'm understanding correctly, that in the one way, the 109A, we are having a centralized decision that affects all the branches. And in the 109B, each branch can kind of make their own decision. Is that my understanding that right?
So part of that is in 109A, you are correct. That is basically all of the libraries would follow whatever the direction is from the Library Advisory Commission with regard to flying commemorative flags. And that would be individual requests from various groups or if the staff bring an item. In 109B, there would be no items that would come forward. The libraries would basically follow the direction of their jurisdiction. So if it is a county library branch, then we would fly the US flag and the state flag. And I believe they have the county, right, that they could do. If it is the city of Capitola, in essence, we could fly the pride flag, the progressive pride flag. There would be the US flag, the city flag, the state of California flag. Those are the ones that would fly based on the jurisdiction's policies. So therefore, you might get different flags at each location.
Mm-hmm. I did listen to that Joint Powers Authority meeting, and I had the impression that they really want us to be the decision makers, that LAC would be the deciding. And I think the way to do that is to make a centralized policy that is more like 109A.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Ripma. I'm going to see if there's any other questions from commissioners on the two different options before us tonight.
Yes, I have a question on B. I know they follow the jurisdiction. Would they be required to follow the jurisdiction? Or would it be at our decision or the JPA or whatever?
It would be, with the branches under 109B would follow the jurisdiction. So there would be no need for us to in future bring the item, like each year we would bring the progressive pride flag item to the LAC in 109A and ask for permission to fly that flag. And so the Library Advisory Commission, this body would make that decision. Yes, this year we are approving that you fly it, and therefore all the libraries would follow that policy. Under 109B, we would not bring an item for flying any progressive flags. We would simply follow the guidance of that jurisdiction. So the city of Capitola puts up the progressive pride flag in June. Capitola Library would fly the progressive pride flag in June, but there would be no need for, no other branches would fly that because none of the other jurisdictions have that as a policy currently.
And Yolande, would, if there was a problematic flag approved by a jurisdiction, the library would still be required to fly it under B?
That is my understanding.
Understood. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Woll.
Give any background as far as how often these kinds of requests have happened in the past?
I am only aware of the progressive pride flag that the staff brought forward. I do not believe we get these very often. I will say that I believe Scotts Valley is looking at establishing a policy, and theirs will revolve around not just commemorative flags, but around banners, because during the pandemic, they started flying a number of banners, like for high school graduation. And so people's, their high schoolers, congratulations, we're up on these banners around town. And so one of their thoughts is that perhaps we need a policy on that, because we kind of opened the door and now we can't have banners and flags flying all over town every day of the week. And so that is sort of where I think many jurisdictions are trying to get a better handle on it. But I don't think we get these very often. And I do know that Assistant Director Howard is on the Zoom meeting this evening. And Eric, if there is additional information that you can provide, if there were any others, but the only one that I'm aware of is the progressive pride flag.
We have not received any requests for any other flag over the past 3 years, but prior to that, I wasn't here, so I don't know, but Kira might, and she's also on call, so I don't mean to play staff tag, but Kira, if you can give us some history there.
Hi, good evening, LAC. No, we have not received any flag requests to my knowledge in the past 10 years or so.
Yes, Commissioner Mount.
I'm curious, with the door kind of opening to this, do we have an idea of what other commemorative flags may start to pass through this door as it's been open? I'm curious kind of what this, if we have any ideas of what this may look like in the future and what groups may come forward for something like this.
Well, I believe, the city of Capitola actually established their policy after being approached to fly the thin blue line flag. And they, went through their process with that, which is why they now have the commemorative flag policy that only allows the progressive pride flag to be flown during the month of June. There are any number of organizations that could potentially come to us if we do have an open commemorative flag policy. And it could even be something like we want to fly a National Library Week flag, right? Which, great, but we would want to bring that to the LAC before we would get permission to do that. So I don't think I could speak to all the various groups that are out there. I know there are a number of them. It might be a Black Lives Matter flag. It might, there are any number of flags that we could be approached to fly. Again, even within 109A, it sort of does state that really whatever commemorative flag displays are being established or put in, they should follow the library's mission and strategic plan.
Mm-hmm.
So equity and inclusion is a part of our strategic plan. So therefore the progressive pride flag, which welcomes everyone into our space, would be something that we would want to approve, could fly.
Mm-hmm.
Good questions from commissioners. Are there any remaining questions? I have one. Under 109B, so if a jurisdiction doesn't have their own commemorative flag policy, then no commemorative flag would be flown at that branch. But would it prevent the library from potentially putting an item or a request on that jurisdiction's governing body's agenda, their city council agenda, say, to, for example, fly the progressive pride flag during that month? It would be more decentralized, but would that be something that you all would be able to do under 109B?
Doesn't A give us the ability to fly any flag we wish at any library branch?
Correct.
That's regardless of the jurisdiction, correct?
Correct. So 109, to answer your question, Chair Bass, we could do that. I think that the whole reason that the Library Joint Powers Authority Board asked us to do policy 109B was that they did not want this to become sort of a political discussion at city council or county supervisors meetings. They wanted to have it be something that would be more just an expression of the library's sort of beliefs in conjunction with our values, our vision, our strategic plan, and our mission. Therefore, the Library Advisory Commission might make that decision. Our Joint Powers Authority board members are tasked now with making the decision, even though their jurisdiction may not actually have a progressive or a commemorative flag policy. We are asking them as board members to make that decision for our libraries. And so I think that's where they would prefer, probably, I think you were at the meeting, so you probably heard that they may want to have that rest in the hands of the Library Advisory Commission, so that they are not having to sort of make that decision that would be contrary to what their jurisdiction might already have in place.
Great, thank you. If there are no other questions from commissioners, we'll just turn to Moderator Jones quickly to see if we have any public comments on this item.
Chair Bass, there are no public comments.
All right, then we'll bring it back for deliberation. Yes, Commissioner Wynne.
Thank you very much. You know, it's not that I'm looking for more work for this organization, but I do think that we are the appropriate body to be making this decision for a system-wide library, system. There are 10 libraries, and I would love to see that the same rules were applied to all 10 libraries. And, I like the fact that it has to be tied to both the mission statement and the strategic plan, values. So it should be a fairly, easy decision to make. I would hate for us to have, to be chopped up so that Scotts Valley's making one decision, Capitola's making another decision, the county's making another decision. I'd like to see consistency. So for that reason, I'm supporting 109A.
I would ditto that, everything you just said.
And
sorry, go ahead, Commissioner Ripma.
I would also prefer 109A, and I do think it's what the JPA was indicating in their meeting.
I think I'm hearing a motion in here somewhere.
I'd move adoption of 109A as our flag policy.
And I'll
a second. Or you can.
Very good. Okay, we have a motion to move forward with commemorative flag policy 109A by Commissioner Termini, second by Vice Chair Dubin. Clerk Sumano Vargas, would you please do a roll call vote?
Jennifer Mount.
Aye.
Mary Ripma.
Aye.
Mike Termini.
Aye.
Pamela Woll.
Aye.
Tricia Wynne.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rena Dubin.
Aye.
And Chair Lindsay Bass.
Aye. So 109A is adopted unanimously. Are there any remaining comments from commissioners before we move to our next general business item agenda? Hopefully that lands the decision with this group and also helps to streamline and provide consistency to the library management and staff. I'm sorry, Mary, I think you were going to say something.
I just wanted to thank Tricia for such an eloquent summary of the situation. Great.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody. So that'll bring us to the next item on general business, which is item B, FY22-23 draft operating budget proposal. But this was a meaty one, lots of great information in the packet, so I'll turn it over to Director Wilburn and Principal Management Analyst Hennepin.
Thank you, Chair Bass. So item 9B, sorry, is a recommendation that the Library Advisory Commission endorse the proposed 22-23 Library Joint Powers Authority budget. As you can see, we have a number of items that we are looking at with regard to aligning the revenue of the Library Financing Authority. We are looking at projected increases in personnel costs at this time of 2.9%. Although I would like to state that we are currently reviewing our staffing plan, and we anticipate that we will come back later in the year and ask for some budget adjustments around that with regard once we've factored in opening for more hours at all of our branches and all of our library locations are opened up again. There is one request to do a reclassification from a library assistant 2 to a library assistant 3. And then really building capital outlay by $50,000 per year. And then increases in operational costs, again, due to our branches reopening. Adding some business property insurance to ensure our library collections. And I think we've been working with our the city's risk manager. And I think we've come up with a really good solution for that to ensure that in the event of fire or, other damage, our material collections are protected. And then using the available fund balance to meet our operational needs. We have included the draft budget with a number of items in it. So at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And our Principal Management Analyst, Kara Hennepin, is here as well to assist if you have any questions.
Great, thank you, Director Wilburn. We'll kick it off with questions and we'll start with Commissioner Wynne.
Thanks very much. And this was really a very well done document. I really appreciated the level of detail and kind of tying up all kinds of loose ends. On page, I think it's 13, in the very first paragraph on budget overview, you talk about how, with the openings of Branson 40, Live Oak Annex, and Scotts Valley, all 9 library branches and the annex will be open to the public, but Aptos won't be, I think. So I just kind of wanted to put a little bookmark there because I wonder once Aptos open, is that the kind of library, the kind of budget adjustment that you'll be coming back to, or will that really be in next year's budget?
I'm anticipating that Aptos will be next year's. So we have our Aptos staff that we've got them spread out across the system. So right now they are helping to fill some of those, what would have been vacancies otherwise, but that we do need to prepare for as Aptos begins to reopen, we will need to ensure that we do have the appropriate staffing. In the staffing plan, which I am hoping to bring to this body in mid-July, at your mid-July meeting, what my goal is to put in their staffing for all locations, including Aptos, even if we're not. So that big budget adjustment will be included within those parameters. I will include Aptos so that we can make that adjustment. And if we do get Aptos open early, then it's terrific. We're covered. But if the construction and knowing how we run into supply chain, it could be after the fiscal year 23, right? If it doesn't open until July, but we'll be prepared either way.
Okay. And then I just have one, this is a residual gripe from last year at this time, when library director Susan presented the budget, but we at the end of this budget, there are all these little funds, these little trust funds that, they were bequests and gifts, and some of them are quite ancient. And I'm just wondering, it would be so nice to spend these funds while we're doing these beautiful new library renovations. They'd be such, it would be so neat to spend these funds, these 30-year-old funds down to provide for the library collection, and someone who just wants to buy music or just wants to buy mysteries or whatever. I just would love to see a plan to spend these little funds down. Number one, it would make everybody's life easier, and we'd actually be putting money in at a really critical time for our library. So anyway, that's almost word for word my rant last year. So I'm not going to belabor it, but I would love to nudge us to do something.
Sure, absolutely. And it is something that we've been talking with our friends of the library groups about. Some of these, as you note, are very specific. They were very specific back then. And that's one of the things that we're now asking as people make donations for trusts, that we have more flexibility on what it can be spent on. But we certainly are looking to use up those funds, especially like mysteries. Okay, you can go out and buy mysteries for every branch, right? So yes, we definitely, I hear you, and we're working with our friends of the library to ensure that we're doing that.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Dubin?
I just was wondering if you could speak to because it looks like we're not going to be charging overdue fines and things like that. So I just wanted to know if you could speak to that.
Yes, sure. So I think last year the staff had come to the board and approved going fine free. It's something that many libraries across the country are doing. It really makes a lot of sense. Libraries, when you look at how much we actually gain versus the amount of work that it takes to put into collecting those funds, it really isn't in many instances worth it. And what we find is it doesn't encourage, charging fines doesn't encourage people to bring materials back any sooner. So I think this is really a great thing. I tend to be a little bit more lenient because I believe that, oftentimes people keep books because they're in love with the book and they don't want to return it. And that means our mission is accomplished. If we've got people who are now lifelong learners and lifelong readers who love their books because they got it from us, then that's okay. But it also, by not having the fines, people are more likely to bring those materials back to us if they, they don't feel like, oh, I'm going to walk in and they're going to hit me with a huge fine. And I've heard that over and over and over again from our patrons. I will just share with you a story that came to me just recently, a couple of weeks ago. I had one of our staff contacted me and said, hey, there's this gentleman who wants to make a donation to the library. There's something about if he passes away, he wants to leave a bequest. And so I reached out and called this individual. And this individual was someone who said to me, well, I don't have that much, Yolande, but I want to leave it to the library. He goes, I just want you to know that I have gone through some difficult circumstances in my life. The library has been the place where it's my home. It's my second home. And I've gotten help from people there. So specifically with regard to the Life Literacy Center, this person had made some connections and has now found a job. They previously did not have a job, right? And as they were filling out their employment papers, after you're hired, you fill out your insurance and who's your next of kin and, who's your insurance beneficiary. And he named the Santa Cruz Downtown Public Library as his beneficiary because we have been his home. He said he has no living relatives in this area. He does not have a great deal of money. He said, it's probably just going to be my last paycheck, but I felt like I wanted to do something to pay the library back for everything that you've done for me. That is really, to me, that's why we do what we do every day, right? Here's somebody who does not have much, but just being able to check out materials and use our services means so much, and has now helped him get a job, and he wants to pay that forward to us. So yes.
Yes, Commissioner Woll.
Just going back to the numbers on under the personnel section on page 23, there's a chart that's called 10-year personnel expenditure history. And I cannot understand exactly what that's trying to say.
Sure, I'm happy to have Kira. Do you want to jump in and take this one?
I don't recall, and I'm sorry, I'm not, I don't recall what that, is it part-time and full-time?
It is. It looks like it's the staffing, and it's a 10-year, it's basically showing the increase in personnel costs over the last 10 years. And so as you can see, 2012 kind of, I think $7.40 was probably your expenditure at that time, and then it climbs to about $12.40 in 2022 is what I'm looking at.
So that's
no, that would be total personnel costs. So the total personnel costs for the library over 10 years, and it's broken down between full-time and part-time employees.
I think, yeah, I think
maybe we could share that. Someone could share that their screen and show that chart.
I think, are you talking about the one in the blue, which shows that is the personnel costs?
The orange one, I think.
Yeah, the orange one is the one I have the question on.
The number of staff.
It's this. I don't know if it's like $12.40. Is that?
That's the one. So the personnel expenditure chart.
Right. There's no reference except for dollars. So is that?
Yeah, it's in the millions. It's not $12.40, but it's
right.
12 million.
Okay.
40. So we can make that, I can make that more specific so that it is more easier to decipher when you're reviewing this document.
Okay, I was trying to see if that was, I went back to some chart that was like total personnel costs, and I thought it was more like 6 million something. So in a previous one, I have to go back, but anyway, yeah, if you could just make it clear, it just wasn't, there's no units on it. So it was just a little bit unclear.
And I think if you go to the page above that one, Sarah, there's the personal expenditures. And so for 2022, it's like 12.4 million. So that's where that is climbing each year from what it originally was.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, sure. And yes, that definitely, we can make that clearer.
Thank you for the quick action there, Moderator Jones, to put those up.
And are you done with it?
And for the question. Any other questions, especially on figures, while we do have the agenda item up?
I guess just one question. There is some income projected from fines. So where would that be coming from?
So some materials, we are still collecting some fines, and there are patrons who may have lost materials, or they may, something like that, where they are paying older fines off. So there are still some things that that people may be continuing to pay for if they've damaged those, or, you know, we have computers, right? And so there are, even though we're not charging overdue fees, there may be some charges if the item is never returned or lost.
Thank you.
Any other questions? See the fine and fee schedule right here in front of us as well.
Yes, and there you could see there where it lost replacement fine, so it varies based on the item. And so that just depends on the book that they've lost, what that charge would be.
Yeah, somewhere it said, I saw it said 12,000 that we were taking in as revenue for that.
And I will say a lot of times people will come in if they have lost a book or it's damaged, and they will say, you know, let me pay for it. So I think the majority of our patrons are very responsible with our materials, which is really fantastic. I think most people really appreciate that they can come to the library and they recognize the value of our materials.
Okay, if there are no other questions from commissioners, I will look to see if there is any public comment on item B under general business, FY 22-23 budget.
Chair Bass, there are no public comments.
Great, we'll bring it back for deliberation then. And I'll just say I was really actually pretty impressed with how you all did keep the costs down. The increases seem like they're being made in strategic areas, capital outlay, training. The staff increases were really marginal. So just really impressed, and it also helps to understand that there's a budget adjustment coming as well once those staffing pieces are a little more known on your side. Any deliberations or additional comments from commissioners just on the packet that we've been given tonight? Vice Chair Dubin.
I just want to, it seems like this was a really thorough process on the staff's part. And I just want to be sure that the money that is requested is sufficient. Because it seems like the staffing piece is why we're so curious, because you know, I do want the libraries to be as staffed as they need to be, but was there anything that you felt that needed to that was inadequate, I guess?
I don't think there was anything that we noted as being inadequate. Again, what we want to do is we want to get to a place where all of our branches are adequately staffed, and that means we can open each day, if knowing that we're still living in a COVID world. If one or two people have to call off, because we don't want people coming to work sick and spreading anything. So if one or two people have to call off, the branch is not sort of struggling to open. And I know we've been living in really tight times with that. A lot of that has because we've been running with the vacancies. We are filling those vacancies now, and really in the early preliminary look at the staffing plans for when we are fully open and expanding to add Friday and Saturday morning service, as well as the afternoon service. So that'll expand our hours a little bit. I think we're looking at, even with that, some minimal staffing complements at each branch to be able to make that work. Sunday service is another thing. And because we are required to give staff 2 days a week off that are together. That's kind of the MOUs that we have really make that predominant. It may not be in our best interest to open 7 days a week at every location. At some of them, that may be fine. And so that's where we're really kind of looking at what's the best balance, where we're not escalating our staffing costs to the point where we can't operate, right? We want to make sure we're operating for the long term. We don't want to do something being short-sighted. And so that's really what we're looking at. And as Chair Bass noted, we are increasing our training budget. That's something that I feel very strongly about. I think our staff do really phenomenal work when they have the opportunity to get the training that they need. You know, you saw the wonderful presentation by Jessie Silva today. That didn't happen just because Jessie showed up every day. It happened because she attends conferences and she collaborates with other libraries and she understands, she's been trained in providing these services, right? And so we want to make sure that we are training our staff, not just at the librarian level, but at all levels. And so not so they're stagnant with us, but so that they can progress in their careers as well. I think those are the real key factors of what we're looking for here. And then that's what we'll be bringing when we add those additional staff and do the budget adjustment in the future will largely be the staffing piece of getting us in balance to be able to add those extra hours.
Okay, we'll go to Commissioner Woll and then Commissioner Wynne.
I'm sorry, I should have asked it earlier, but in the reference of the 2.9% increase for personnel, there's a reference of a vacancy factor of 770K. Could you please educate me on what that means?
Sure, Kira, I'll let Kira speak to that because that's something that was put in place years ago. Kira, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. It was put in place several years ago. Our then city finance director, Marcus Pimentel, did a history of how the library ran as far as vacancy numbers, meaning we were not filling open positions throughout the year, and that would create a savings in personnel. And so he did an average over time, and he recommended to the board and to the library that we factor in $770,000 each year as a savings in personnel so that it would more accurately reflect what we're spending each year. And so I want to say that's about 5 or 7 years old, that information. And so part of our next year's budget will be recalibrating what that vacancy factor is to make sure it's still in line with what we've projected or what has happened over the past 5 or so years. So that's what that represents, is the money the library saves when they don't fill vacancies throughout the year, either due to recruitment processes being slower than anticipated or other factors that may exist.
And we do anticipate that that will go down next year.
Thanks for that question, Commissioner Woll. Commissioner Wynne.
Well, I would think, you know, during COVID that number probably fluctuated wildly. And then, of course, while library branches were closed, you'll probably get a much better handle on that a couple of years from now. But I do appreciate the work that goes into it. If I'm not getting out ahead of everybody, I was just going to move that we endorse this budget plan as presented.
We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Wynne to endorse the budget package in our packet. Is there a second for that motion?
A second.
All right, I saw Vice Chair Dubin first. So we have a motion to endorse and a second. Clerk Sumano Vargas, please do a roll call vote.
Jennifer Mount,
Aye.
Mary Ripma,
Aye.
Mike Termini,
Aye.
Pamela Woll,
Aye.
Tricia Wynne,
Aye.
Vice Chair Rena Dubin,
Aye.
and Chair Lindsay Bass.
Aye. That endorsement is unanimous. And that concludes item 9 on our agenda, with the endorsement of the FY23 draft operating budget, which brings us to item 10, which is the scheduled upcoming meetings. So with our consent calendar tonight, we'll again be virtual for our next meeting, July 18th. And just as a note, there's a couple of things that have been flagged for that next meeting. So as we read in our communications, we'll likely see the code of conduct policy coming back at that July 18th meeting, as well as the revised staffing model and an update there. I believe that's
Chair Bass, I'll just add that we are hoping to also have a presentation by our equity team. They're doing a little bit more wrap-up work, but I believe they'll be ready to come and do a presentation at that meeting as well. And we will have additional policies as well that we'll be bringing forth. We are trying to get caught up on our policies. And so we may bring a hefty chunk of policies to you all at once. If we can get those through legal and all of the channels that we go through, then those will be all on the agenda, hoping that we can get caught up.
fantastic. Yes, Vice Chair Dubin.
I don't think it was mentioned in June, the Garfield Park is opening. So I thought maybe someone could speak to that in more detail.
June 11th from 12 to 4, I believe, is the opening date slated for Garfield Park. And I'm sure Director Wilburn, you'll keep us posted if anything shifts or changes. But yeah, very excited about that next big date.
Absolutely. Yes, it is June 11th. And at 12 to 4 is when we plan on having our sort of grand opening events. We'll do the speeches, and then we'll have different performances and of course, story time, all the fun events. And we'll be sending out more information to each of our board members as the plans for that continue to develop.
So much happening before our next meeting and at our next meeting. So thank you, commissioners, for your time and attention tonight, the thoughtful questions and comments. Thank you to the library staff for putting together a really robust agenda and having all of the experts on the Zoom to answer questions and provide the detailed comments. So thank you, everyone. I believe with that, we can adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.